Yes, good morning to all.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. So, good morning, sir.
Sir.
So we start. I suppose we can start now.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, and good morning to all. Sure. Okay. So now, as you can see, the today's topic is something related to building construction, and there are certain provisions which are covered in NBC 2016. And I suppose everybody must be understanding what is NBC, in case they are not able to know, because many people may not be aware that that is NBC is called as National Building Code, and there are many provisions which are given there in the NBC, and we'll see where these particular provisions may be required from our point of view. Okay, na? So, so we'll start. Now we'll go with respect to. So now you can see. Okay. So now you can see there are certain photographs I have just simulated just to have a fair amount of idea as to what are many times in case we are providing certain facilities, but these facilities may not be an appropriate one. As you can see from this particular photograph, we have provided a staircase, basically small staircase, but again we don't have adequate space for a particular person to turn around, and we have, as you can see in the front, a small wall has been constructed or a certain type of a partitioning is there. So we should not go for such type of again facility. On the right side again you can see it's a photograph again here. The landing portion of the staircase is missing, and many times this is the case you must have seen. This is what is called as in case we are not able to do the supervision of the many works properly. Now again we can see on the left side, this is a landing. As you can see the width of landing, how the cast in situ work of the staircase has been done. Now I cannot understand what is the issue or what is the problem as to why they have gone for these type of constructions. Just a minute, please. Hello? Hello? Okay, now as we can see on the left side, again badly planned activities, although we want to provide a staircase, but again this particular staircase has been not properly constructed. Likewise on the right side you can see, now here he has just constructed the staircase, but again you can see the slope and other requirements are not satisfied. Likewise, now see, this is again, as you can see, this is an FOB, foot over bridge. For an FOB, the approach of the staircase, you can see, if you minutely see, now you can see carefully. So here you can see the riser and the thread. You can see here. So that means some misplanning has gone. Initially, he might have started on the right course, but subsequently there was some problem, and due to which, as you can see, these particular risers are not properly constructed, or possibly because he needs to have that much thread. Suppose 300 is required, so that 300 he wants to adjust, and possibly the space has not been properly, what you call as the layout is not done properly, and you land into such type of problem. Do you agree? Have you seen this particular photograph? Are you able to clearly see this? Participant?
Yes, sir.
Again, so this might have what could be the reason of this? What according to you could be the reason?
Space constraint, sir.
स्पेस कंस्ट्रेंट, या तो जो इनिशियल के अंदर में लेआउट ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर staircase is not done properly, and at that end possibly is having some problem, so that these number of steps are required. So I have done some adjustment. Okay, so again, proper type of layout is supposed to be given at the initial stage itself. Now on the right side again, you can see this is again not of railways, but again you can see so much small space that is between the two buildings is provided. This you will find in many cities, older cities, where proper planning. Nowadays NBC has come up with many of the provisions. So we have to again understand some basic minimum space which is required to be left between the two buildings. Okay, these aspects will basically try to cover up in the future slide. Now there are again this, you can see here, this is again badly constructed, or not, or you can say the common sense doesn't prevail. So this staircase has been constructed on the left side. Or possibly it has been remotely supervised. Somebody has told, yes, today the staircase casting has to be done. He has done the staircase casting, but again defying various basic common sense. On the right side again you can see, here we have an escalator, but you can understand the headroom provided here is not appropriate. So a person standing here cannot pass through. So there is grossly misplanning with respect to minimum height which is required to be provided for a room, or the headroom which is supposed to be provided either for a staircase or an escalator. Clear? We'll further go. Now here you can see the provisions of urinals has been provided, but these urinals, as you can see, has been provided so close then that possibly the facility is there, but it cannot be utilized properly. So these cases you might have seen in many public places, but just to have a better understanding, these are again displayed. Now here this is a common thing. On the right side you can see the toilet seat. So the door is not able to fully open because the space provided in this particular WC is not appropriate. Either the door is big or the location of my this toilet seat is not done properly. So here the door is not able to open fully. So this again we can provide, basically try to basically, in case we have some basic understanding, then we can avoid these issues. Okay. So again here you can see on the left side we have a what you call as a staircase with having an handrails attached to it. But again these handrails are just adjacent to a location what we call as electrical installation. So either the electrical installation should not be at this particular location where this particular staircase and handrails are provided, either it can be relocated somewhere else so that these things are not there. Likewise on the right side again you can see these electrical installations or whatever these boxes are there, they are in front of a small garage. So again this is again a part of a misplanning, so that your civil persons are planning in some other way, electrical persons are planning in some other way. So we want to have a what we call as, we'll see in further slides as to how that plans are required to be approved in case you want to execute a particular small work. Likewise, we have a certain requirement, as you can see, for Divyangjan facilities, we need to provide some type of a proper ramp because he is able to have an access to this particular toilet. But again, the staircase has been provided, and although we have given a symbol of a Divyangjan facilities which is provided here, but it is of no use because the access is not available here. So we have various guidelines nowadays for Divyangjan persons or the facilities which are required to provide it. I will briefly cover at the end of the presentation certain basic requirements or certain terminologies with respect to Divyangjan. Now here again you can see these structural components are basically provided in between the passage accesses or the corridors. Again an aspect of misplanning. Okay. So these are again I will see some more photographs I will just try to show. Now here you can see. Now what is wrong here? Can any participant can tell as to what went wrong here? It's not a railway building, but it is just a maybe some other building, just to have an insight as to how the planning can go wrong. Now where this particular problem is there? And
Column is resting, sir, on a slab, which should not be the case. Either it is onto the column or with supported with the beam.
correct, but can you identify as to why he must have done this? ऐसा क्यों किया होगा उसने?
Probably to have a balcony space, sir.
नहीं बालकनी नहीं है. Just try to see carefully. ये फोटोग्राफ को carefully करो. Others can also basically give their suggestions or other what they have observed here from this particular
High
photograph.
tension wire, sir. High tension electrical wire.
Yes, very correct. As you can see, initially he started the construction and then subsequently he came to know that there are some electrical wirings which are passing near that particular building, and now again, because up to first floor he has done the work, now what he is supposed to do after that? Just defying all fundamentals of civil engineering, he has shifted the column onto the slab. So before starting any particular work, please pay attention to all these aspects. Now it may be not a railways establishment, but again you can understand in case you are buying a plot nearby this electrical installation, maybe for your own house, then you have to be very careful, because some basic, I will just show you some table also where my basic spaces are required to be kept clear of this installation, and then you can do your civil activity. But this is obviously you can make good as to what went wrong and subsequently what people are doing. And something now again you can see, now the basics of fundamentals of civil engineering is lost, and if something happens, then the person who has constructed is held responsible. Okay. Now you can see here, interesting thing. Now he has not shifted the pole, but he has incorporated the pole in his own building structure. Again, now these are some interesting photographs by which at least you will be able to understand how people can do things. And basically, due to this only we get a bad name. Civil engineers get a bad name. So, one more interesting example here. So, what you are able to see here? Yes, anybody would like to react?
Height of water booth is not appropriate, sir. It's too much high.
It's too much. Now you can understand if the facility is required to be provided to the children, at least those who are in the school or whatever the premises they are living. So we need to provide appropriate height of the water booth. No? So now it is difficulty for a person to do all these activities, but they are doing some local adjustment. So for whom we are trying to give the facility, that is very important, and we have to apply, or rather in case the things are not available directly in our either manuals, then we need to find out that from where I can get this data. Because this is not appropriate, because it's not satisfying anybody's need. So although they are doing some adjustment, but this is not a happy situation. Okay. Now we have lot of, again as you can see, lot of ceiling works, or you can say false ceiling works, and lot of installations are nowadays there between your mother slab and the false ceiling what you are providing. Either it can be in the form of, as you can see, HVAC, or maybe some type of gas connecting pipelines, or there may be some installations for AC duct, or there may be other installations which are basically going through all these ducts. So we have to be very careful while planning these activities. Now you can see the condition of the structural members of the ceiling. Now that is getting corroded, and I suppose as civil engineers, although the false ceilings may be looking very good or it may be giving good aesthetic appeal, but inspection of all those hangers or whatever the supporting structures of the false ceilings are there, it's very important to basically see the structural integrity of that also. Because many times we have seen this happen, suppose they are of some wooden members, then due to termite also it might fall down. But nowadays we are using some type of not wooden members, but there may be old installations where all these things are there. So we need to have a method by which we will do the inspection of these also, maybe periodically, because again work manual is silent on that. But important installations, we need to find some method by which we will be able to see all these activities. Now this is a common thing, as you can see, is poor quality, not following certain norms. We will see in further slides as to what are my minimum, what we called as grade of concrete which is supposed to be provided for the building, what the NBC says, what the IS codal provisions are there, minimum grade of concrete which is supposed to be used. Now can anybody tell as to for buildings we are required to use which code, which IS code we should refer to for building, construction of building, anything related to concrete?
456.
Yes, we are required to refer to IS 456 requirement. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Now you can understand for IS 456, they are given certain environmental exposure conditions. Can anybody tell us so how many exposure conditions are there as per IS 456?
Mild, moderate.
Five number of, sir.
Yes, 5 numbers. Very correct. So it's very good that at least you are aware that 5 numbers of exposure conditions and there we have to select those exposure conditions, and based on those exposure conditions there is one table number 5 which specifies certain minimum grade of concrete which is supposed to be used, and I suppose everybody is aware of this. सबको पता है कि ये IS 456 का टेबल नंबर 5 आपके जितने भी एनवायरमेंट एक्सपोजर कंडीशन है, सपोज यू आर बिल्डिंग इन इज सपोज स्टैंडिंग इन अ area where there is lot of rainfall, maybe in Ooty, or for that matter it can be in Lonavala where lot of rains are there, yearly rainfall maybe in the high range of around 5,000 millimeters. So in that case possibly my environmental exposure condition may be severe or very severe. So depending on that, my minimum grade of concrete is specified for RCC, for plain concrete also. So please take care whenever you are planning these activities, because what happens many times SSCs are preparing the schedule not understanding that what minimum grade of concrete is supposed to be used for making or constructing a building depending on the environmental exposure condition. We normally go for M20 or M25. But please refer to those codal requirements so that either you can see in case if it is a very severe requirement that possibly minimum grade of concrete may be M30. So I will be required to use those tables. I suppose everybody agrees to this. तो सभी लोग इससे एग्री करते हैं. What I am saying is,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
should I say that particular? अगर वो मेरे को अगर आपको टेबल देखना है दिखाने की जरूरत है या
Yes,
you
sir.
are understand?
Yes, sir.
No, sir. We are understand, sir.
Okay. अगर नहीं है तो you can always open IS code. Nowadays it is available in the public domain, so you can always refer. ठीक है? So now you can see now what is the problem here? What you can make out from this? अगर ये आपको दिख रहा है तो इसके अंदर में क्या प्रॉब्लम दिख रहा है आपको?
It's falling, sir. Falling of concrete because of proper, no proper cover.
Yes, it may be a possibility that possibly the cover is not provided of adequate thickness requirement. ठीक है ना? So and possibly and the grade of concrete again we are not aware. The quality of concrete, yeah, poor quality also can be a important reason for all these things to happen. So again, as you can see, it is exposed and as you can see, the reinforcement is already in the corroded form. That means the cracks might have appeared earlier also. Suddenly it cannot go on, this corrosion aspect. So earlier it must have some cracks, no proper attention is given to that, and now this condition has come. Now the falling has started. But the falling again cannot, you can say it is not an instant process. It will take some time. So we need to do, as you can see in work manual also, some important, every building is supposed to be inspected. Okay, now we go ahead. Now this is also an important thing. This I suppose in case you are planning any type of, maybe in private sector you must have seen आपके जो घर होंगे, बहुत बार दिस tower person comes and they say I want to erect a particular tower on your existing building, and then he makes a small type of a structure, maybe an RCC or some designer must have done some activities, also designing activities, and then he has erected the structure. But even in case of railway buildings also, I will just show this video also. So in case you are doing any type of retrofitting, now just read this important NBC 2016 provision, which again will try to understand what happened. Cantilever projection, vertical projection, small size facilities like, as you can see, towers, or you can see this particular tower, or for that matter tank, RCC tank. आपने देखा होगा कि ये जो स्ट्रक्चर्स रहते हैं जो आपके कैंटिलीवर फॉर्म के अंदर में प्रोजेक्ट हो रहे हैं बिल्डिंग के ऊपर में. So you have to be very careful in case you are trying to give any type of permission to these authorities. Railways के अंदर में I am not very sure. Maybe on a particular structure, then some tower, maybe Geo or any other person may be saying कि साहब वहाँ मेरे signals कम आ रहे हैं, so please permit to erect a particular structure so that my signals are better. So again, I would like to again caution you that such towers or the tanks again it can be RCC tanks, maybe an afterthought की पहले tank की कम capacity then you are adding to that, or for that matter parapet, smokestacks or chimneys and other vertical cantilever projections. These the wording, they are very important. Attached to a building and projecting vertically above the roof. And the other sentence is important, but not a part of the structural system of the building. So that means this particular thing has not been taken care while doing the design of the building itself. Now these have been constructed afterward. So what NBC again specifies is that it shall be designed and checked for stability for 5 times the design horizontal seismic coefficient AH, which again specified in certain clause of that particular building. In the analysis of the building, the weights of these projecting elements shall be lumped with the roof weight. Now I'll just read the provisions of that, and I suppose this is an important provision. So in case somebody is planning, please see that this aspect is taken care of. I will just show the video of this also. Let's see this video works. Okay. यदि वीडियो काम नहीं कर रहा है, just a minute. Okay. I'm not able to run this video. There's some problem. Okay. So ultimately, just to tell you that this particular structure has fallen down because this particular building, all these activities they have done, erected what you call a small on the slab itself, because it is not an integral part of the column itself, and they have erected the structure and the entire cantilever structure is on it. So this has caused the problem, and ultimately because this video is not able to run, so it fell down. So I suppose you must be very careful in case you are planning this type of things onto an existing building. Participants are able to understand what I am trying to say here?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
ऐसी कोई सिचुएशन आ रही है?
Yes,
ऐसी कोई सिचुएशन कभी आ रही किसी के साथ?
No, sir.
At present, no situation is coming. No. So just to have an understanding, because ये थोड़ा बहुत आप ध्यान रखेंगे तो next time you will be very careful, और अगर कोई प्लान कर भी रहा होगा तो you can take certain precautions. Okay. Okay. Now we come to again, as you can see, everybody understands that on our own railway land, are we supposed to take any type of permissions from any authorities for erecting buildings onto that? मैं अगर रेलवे की कोई बिल्डिंग बनाना चाहता हूँ रेलवे लैंड के ऊपर में, तो क्या मेरे को किसी से परमिशन लेने की जरूरत है क्या?
No, sir. Permission is not required, but local building laws, bylaws has to be followed.
Okay, yes. So again, I am just basically trying to quote that particular laws of work manual which again spaces. It specifies in areas where bylaws have been notified by the local authority. notwithstanding the fact that the bylaws are not applicable for the railway building. Because again, we have a certain, as you can say, Railway Act, where I am not supposed to take any type of a permission from these authorities, but still again it is specifying that notwithstanding the fact that the bylaws are not applicable for the railway buildings, it would be in the common interest to adopt such bylaws as being good recommended practice. So where the provisions exist in such bylaws for firefighting arrangement, now you can, because many times we may be required to do some type of firefighting arrangement requirement. The provisions indicated in National Building Code may be followed. So I am trying to relate as to from works manual provisions as to why NBC is there in the picture. In areas where bylaws have not been notified, now there may be cases where these bylaws have not been notified, maybe a small Nagarpalika or a small establishment, maybe a small city. It will be desirable to adopt the provisions of National Building Code. Now here again our works manual is yet to be revised, so they are giving the reference of 1983, although it has been again revised in 2005 and now it is further revised as third edition in 2016. So again we will just see the requirements. So National Building Code requirements can be referred in case bylaws have not been notified by the local authorities. Okay, is okay? आगे चलें. For these we have to basically see about what are the important requirements for those. Now we have a certain important requirement. As you can see here, it gives that for a high-rise building, now how they are defining as a high-rise building, 15 meters and above in the height, they are classifying it as a high-rise building. Now there are certain provisions which have been given, particularly for high-rise buildings or special buildings. We'll see what the special buildings are. Shall receive special attention with respect to fire and life safety. Now previously what was happening is that this fire and life safety was basically covering by NHPA guidelines, National Fire Protection Guidelines given by US. But in 2016, it's a very good thing that our NBC has incorporated many of these fire and life safety requirements. A separate chapter has been dedicated for that, particularly with regard to planning or for that matter design, execution. So this again are many times which is required. So I will just share, yes, this is again roof drainage plan. This is again works manual which has been given in the works manual itself. But are we making for big, either for any structure, are we making these type of roof drainage plans? Perhaps no. But again, a lot of planning has to go, because how do I decide the diameter of this rainwater pipe? And how do I basically guide that particular water to that location? So I will be having some type of a ridge line here, and I will, because in case the area of the roof is large, then I might be basically making certain partitionings, and this water can go to those designated locations. This is very, very important, because in case I don't provide, we'll discuss further also as to how I decide the diameter of this rainwater pipe. Can I ever tell as to how do I decide this rainwater pipe diameter? Or it is all arbitrarily decided, 75 or 100 millimeters, 110 millimeters. कैसे डिसाइड करते हैं? Can anybody tell? Or are there any guidelines available? So, nobody is responding. The 75, whatever they are written, is okay? Or it has been done, some rational calculations are required to be done? Or it can be done arbitrarily? Okay, maybe I will just discuss this also in future slide as to how do I decide this. Okay. Likewise, you can have a detailed toilet plan. As you can see, what should be the height of the wash basins. Again, these are newly incorporated in NBC 2016. I will share those details also as to what should be the height of the wash basins, maybe WC height, flush height, mirror height, all these things, basic preliminary important requirements, shower height, all these things will be basically told. I will just share that also so that it is readily available what the NBC is specifying. Likewise, you can have a certain detailed kitchen plan also. Or you can see an elevation of the OTA or that particular gas cylinder which is supposed to be there. I have seen many cases where this particular height of the kitchen OTA is inadequate and the cylinder is not able to go inside. So although the facility has been provided, granite is there, everything nicely constructed, but the height itself is not appropriate and the facility, the purpose for which it was required to be provided, it is not serving that purpose. So please see that all these things I am just sharing here. This is work manual, but again for NBC also latest guidelines I will be sharing here also. So that at least the person who is executing in the field there is aware or other will be taken care of. Most important, we never do this furniture layout plan. And I suppose everybody agrees that furniture layout plan we are never making. Now you must have seen in various rest houses or the quarters also. Although I may be planning, as you can see on this area, this is a bedroom, you may be providing a fan at the center of the room because normally it's our practice. But the bed is somewhat on the side of the wall, and many times we don't have that fan in this particular location. So again, in case I have freeze my furniture layout plan, I can plan electrical installations and other things depending on that location of ACs. So this will help you a lot. I suppose everybody agrees because we don't pay attention to this. तो वे सभी लोग देखें तो ये फर्नीचर लेआउट प्लान बनता नहीं है. Am I correct?
अभी हम
हाँ बोलिए.
मैं अभी RLDA में था तो वहां पे हम लोग इसको बनाते थे.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, ये बहुत अच्छी बात है बिकॉज ये बनाने के बाद योर प्लान्स आर फ्रोजन. तो इनकेस समबडी वांट्स टू डू चेंजेस आल्सो देन यू कैन बेसिकली कन्विंस हिम कि सर ये सब चीजें प्लान हो चुकी हैं, मेरे इलेक्ट्रिकल इंस्टॉलेशन वहीं पे आ रहे हैं. आज के डेट में सपोज आई चेंज माई पोजिशन ऑफ वॉश बेसिन और फॉर दैट मैटर बाकी भी चीज अगर मैं चेंज करता हूँ तो लॉट ऑफ चेंजेस विल बी रिक्वायर्ड टू बी डन. बिकॉज आपने कंड्यूस डाल चुके हैं, सब चीजें आपकी फाइनलाइज हो गई हैं, तो बाद में करना इतना आसान नहीं रहेगा. तो इट्स अ वेरी गुड प्रैक्टिस इन केस यू आर डूइंग ऑल दिस फर्नीचर लेआउट प्लान. रेलवे के अंदर में शायद ये चीज अभी कम है. चलो आगे चलते हैं. Likewise, we can have a sewage line plan also. Where as you can see, this is all finalized. So I have a location of WC in this location. So outlet will be there. ये पहले से लाइन डली हुई है. कल आके कोई बोलता है कि साहब इसको आप ये WC को आप इधर लगा दीजिए उधर लगा दीजिए, it will be lot of difficulty. Now everybody understand. आपने देखा बहुत बार वॉश बेसिन पहले यहाँ पे रहेगा, वो वॉश बेसिन आप चेंज करके यहाँ लगाएंगे तो उसका आउटलेट पाइप आपको टाइल्स के नीचे से लेके जाना पड़ेगा. And in case of any issue, suppose it's a multi-story quarters, lot of problems maybe with respect to the leakages. And I suppose many SSCs, those who are maintaining buildings, maybe multi-story buildings, they are facing this issue. ऐसे ही आपको वेस्ट वाटर और ओपन सरफेस प्लान भी बना लेना चाहिए. How the rainwater will come, how the open drains will be there, what should be the slope of that open drain, at which particular location they will be connected, and how it will be discharged to the outside requirement. We can understand now which type of, how many types of plans are required to be made. This is again with respect to water supply and flow drainage plan. Now this is again, as you can see, suppose due to any reason there is flooding in the water itself, and how the water will go outside. So again they have specified certain slope of 1 in 150 in the room itself where the spouts are there. But many times we don't provide this. Maybe in certain areas where there is a lot of possibilities of having water near to the location of the septic. And then the final electrical wiring plan. Now you have frozen all these things. Now the electrical person will provide whatever the switches हैं for the lighting, maybe for other activities. ये सब चीजें ही for plan also he is planning because based on your requirements now he is providing the plan. Night lamp, as you can see for bedrooms he is providing certain night lamp provision. So this way you can basically go about proper planning so that these things are taken care of. Okay, now that was all about what we called as related to building. There is something again as correction slip number 11. I am just trying to highlight that, which has come in works manual, which specifies there is something definition they have given for foot over bridges. Many times FOBs, you must have seen that these FOBs are being utilized by either 3-wheelers or 2-wheelers also in case they have provision of a ramp. There may be many locations where we have a provision of the ramp, although it is functioning as an FOB, but may be utilized by certain motorized vehicles. But I am just trying to again give the definition. I am just trying to read the definition here. The foot over bridge is an elevated structure of any span and width over across the railway track or the road. Primarily, important here is primarily used for pedestrian movement and is not directly used by motor vehicles as defined in Motor Vehicle Act. So you have to understand that FOB is designed for only pedestrian traffic. So it should clearly mention, in case you want to make that particular FOB fit for 2-wheelers or for that matter 3-wheelers, then possibly that factor will be required to be taken care of while designing. So that's why this correction slip has come in 2022 itself. Design of foot over bridge should provide for covering, which should preferably be provided at the initial stage itself. Many times we are providing FOBs without the cover on the top of it. But now it has reiterated that at the initial stage itself, you should go for provision of the covering over that FOB itself. The number of floors envisaged and their usage should be clearly mentioned in the general arrangement drawings of the FOB. Structural design should cater to the intended usage of the FOB. It's clearly written, in case you want to have a facility of having a 2-wheeler or a 3-wheeler over it, then it should be designed according to that. Okay, so we'll go ahead. Okay, now we come to again NBC requirement. First अपन डिटेल में चलते हैं. Now what NBC is saying. This is just a brief. NBC is also called as SP7. Now can I tell you what is this SP? Why they have written as SP? This is again Bureau of Indian Standards has published this.
Special publication.
These are special publications, and yes, what he has rightly corrected, that special publications are into much detail. Because normally codes you will find that they are very, what you call as concise and very precise. But if somebody wants to go into details of that, so they will find in all these special publications. So as you can see, it's not voluminous, volume 1, volume 2, more than 1000 pages. So it is called as SP7, special publication number 7, published by Bureau of Indian Standards, first published 1970, then again in this is third revision 2016. Okay, this we have already seen. Why? So there were again why it was required, because some major changes were required to be incorporated in this revision, because lot of again we can see nowadays they have certain provisions, association of need-based professionals and agencies. Now you can see why they have added this is that many times you may be required to have some structural designer who is certifying the structural integrity of the building itself. And there are nowadays lot of other professionals. All these professionals will be certifying that this particular thing which has been provided in the building itself is okay. So they have some what we call as provisions for association of need-based professionals and agencies which were earlier not there. They have been updated to ensure proper discharge of responsibility. So again, certain type of responsibilities are attached to them. Now you must be aware of RERA also, where all these things are nowadays being taken care of. They are given certain as to how the approval process has to be there. Again, we will not go into details of this. Some streamlining process they have given. Computerization approvals they have given, because it may be required, not from our point of view, but again from private point of view also, these approvals are required to be taken. This D is very important, which specifies the mechanism of ensuring certification of structural safety of the buildings by competent professionals. And again, peer review of the design of buildings have been further strengthened. This is very important because earlier no clear directives were there. Now they are saying that this mechanism of ensuring certification by a structural safety. When somebody will certify that this particular building is structurally safe, the competent professional has to be there, and in case it is required, it will be reviewed. And obviously nowadays, requirement for accessibility to buildings. as you can see, person with disabilities and elderly have been thoroughly revised. And again, those provisions are also given here. It's a separate chapter, it's a very detailed and a comprehensive chapter. We'll just touch some basic things at the end of the slide. Just
एक्सेसिबिलिटी प्रोविजंस के बारे में जो लिखा है वो रेजिडेंशियल बिल्डिंग एंड अदर देन रेजिडेंशियल के लिए सेपरेट है।
सभी के लिए रहेंगे। बिल्डिंग के लिए एनबीसी के अंदर में बिल्डिंग्स के लिए एक्सक्लूसिवली दिया हुआ है। From our railways point of view, maybe on platforms or others, so we have a separate guideline which has been issued by railway board. वो पता होगा आप लोगों को?
जो मैनुअल इशूड है उसमें
मैनुअल नहीं, एक अलग से गाइडलाइन इशू है 2022 से 23 की बात है, जिसके अंदर में उन्होंने एक सेपरेट गाइडलाइन दिया हुआ है फॉर दिव्यांगजन, फॉर रेलवे स्टेशन, पर्टिकुलरली फॉर रेलवे पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू। दैट्स अ वेरी गुड डॉक्यूमेंट। तो खैर अभी वी आर नॉट डीलिंग हियर, बट इसके अंदर में हम लोग
रेलवे क्वार्टर्स के केस में हम बिना लिफ्ट के प्रोविजन के कितनी हाइट या कितने स्टोरीज तक जा सकते हैं?
देखो बायलॉज जो कहता है, जो यहाँ पे बायलॉज है, मोर देन 3 स्टोरीज के लिए आपको लिफ्ट देना है।
ओके,
तो आगे मैं देखता हूँ लिफ्ट के बारे में।
मोर देन 3 और मोर देन G+3
उन्होंने बेसिकली यहाँ पे जो गाइडलाइंस है मोर देन 3।
ओके,
मैं आपको
in East Central Railway we have constructed G+3 quarter blocks without provision of lift.
आप वहां पे जिस एरिया में आप कर रहे हैं वो कहीं बड़े सिटी में आता है, कॉर्पोरेशन लिमिट में आता है या नहीं आता है?
ओके,
तो अगर वो नहीं आता है,
बाय लॉज
नहीं, अगर बिल्डिंग वालों में नहीं आता है तो जैसे बोल रहे हैं कि आपको एनबीसी को फॉलो करना चाहिए, तो एनबीसी के अंदर में मैं अगर होगा तो क्लॉज देखता हूँ, अगर होगा तो आई जस्ट टेल यू कहाँ पे आपको लिफ्ट प्रोवाइड करना है।
ओके,
ठीक है, देखेंगे जैसे चलता है आगे। में शायद ऐड किया है मैंने, लिफ्ट के प्रोविजन डाले हुए हैं, बट आई एम नॉट श्योर कि कितने स्टोरी वाला है उसके अंदर में, बट वी कैन फाइंड इट। एनबीसी में आप ढूंढ सकते हैं, यू कैन गेट। तो नहीं, व्हाट यू आर थिंकिंग इज दैट provision of this particular lift is from Divyanjan point of view, or you want to go as a normal case? क्यों? आप जो लिफ्ट के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं वो मेरे को दिव्यांगजन लोगों को देने के लिए चाहिए या इन जनरल आप बात कर रहे हैं? Okay. Now there are a lot of again provisions for fire and life safety which has been thoroughly revised. ये जैसे मैंने आपको बताया, दिस प्रोविजंस वर नॉट प्रोवाइडेड अर्लियर इन 2005 एडिशन। 2016 के अंदर में थॉरो रिवीजन हैज बीन गिवन एंड वेरी गुड फायर एंड लाइफ सेफ्टी रिक्वायरमेंट हैज बीन गिवन। So we'll just discuss some of the important aspects of that also. ठीक है, तो you would like to have a break? 11:15 बज गया चाय पीने के लिए, या कंटिन्यू करें? पार्टिसिपेंट हाँ कर लें?
जी जी जी।
हाँ, कुछ लोग बोल रहे हैं 5 मिनट का ब्रेक दीजिए करके। ओके, तो शैल वी स्टार्ट अगेन?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So you are able to see the screen and you are able to hear properly. Okay,
Yes,
we
sir.
start again. So again, as we were talking about fire and life safety, lot of again you can see in the NBC, lot of provisions has been made. Very nice provision. In case somebody wants to go into details of those, very nicely covered. Latest structural loading and design and construction codes. This is also again because those many times including wind load, earthquake resistant designs, building, steel designs, foundation, etc. has been incorporated in this. Obviously, beyond 2016 also a lot of incorporation has been done. I will just update those also apart from what is there in the NBC itself. Okay? Are you able to see my video also?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Fine, fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we go ahead. Provisions have been incorporated again for updation with respect to utilization of number of new alternatives, means again with respect to innovations in the field of building construction. So that is also a separate chapter which again caters to this. There are again construction management guidelines also exclusively given as separate chapter. And guidance has also been given for making buildings energy efficient and environmentally compatible in order to have something called as sustainability. So these are also incorporated in the buildings. I will just tell you which are the various chapters. The most important thing is that nowadays new chapter has been included in this NBC for structural use of glasses. Now you can understand, you must see that nowadays a lot of buildings are coming up with respect to use of structural glasses. Earlier no provisions were given in anywhere. So nowadays structural use of glasses is also incorporated here. Apart from that, provisions of escalators, moving walks. Now you must understand, you must be knowing what are moving walks. Yes, can I ever tell what is a moving walk or moving walk?
Travelator, sir.
Yes.
Travelator.
Just like a travelator, it can be horizontal or it can be on a slope also. So those provisions are also there. Information communication enabled installation. Now you must have seen, बहुत बार आपका CCTV कैमरास हैं, एक आपका डोर पे कैमरा रहता है, इसके प्रोविजन भी again all has been incorporated here. Apart from that, solid waste management, asset facility management, this is also a very good thing which has been incorporated. Now see the guidelines we have already seen. This is volume 1, and applicability again we have already seen. It is being basically applies to design and construction of the building as such. Again, it again specifies many times what's to happen, either a whole or a part of the building is removed. Many times it may be there that I am removing a particular part of the building. The code applies to all parts of the building whether it is removed or not. So it may not be that it is applicable to a particular part of the building. It's applicable in totality. Whenever there is a whole or any part of the building which is required to be demolished, the code applies to any remaining part also. बहुत बार क्या रहता है कि suppose I demolish a particular building, ऐसा नहीं कि जो remaining part है वो NBC कोड को प्रोविजन को फॉलो नहीं करेगा. You may be having a certain provision which was available in the entire building, but now that building is demolished, maybe half portion of the building is demolished. So I should have the facilities for that remaining part of building also. What he is trying to say. Where a building is altered, the code applies to the whole building, whether existing or the new, except that the code applies only a part if that part is completely self-contained with respect to the facilities. That means what I am talking was that जो भी आपको remaining building है, that should be self-containing with all the provisions of NBC in case it is required to be altered. Okay, now we come to this volume 1, which are the various chapters. Because ये थोड़ा important रहेगा कि कौन से chapters deal होते हैं. So I am just trying to tell you, this is part 0. It's integrated approach, prerequisite for applying provisions of the code. Now this may not be directly relevant to us. जो इसके अंदर में apply करना चाहते हैं, maybe with respect to application or getting approval for other things, वो इसके अंदर में आता है. Second is certain part 1 is called as definitions. We'll see some of the basic definitions which is required from our point of view also. Part 2 again deals with administration. Part 3, this is important because it caters to many of the development control rules and general building requirements. We'll see some of the aspects of this part 3. ये कुछ part मैंने लिए हुए हैं. Part 4, as I have already told you, elaborate guidelines for fire and life safety. Our railway guidelines possibly fire or life safety के बारे में बहुत कुछ नहीं है. Very important document here. Part 5 is again building materials. What are the new building materials in the market? Some provisions of that also. Part 6 is again structural design. Now these particular structural designs, as you can see, are given in various. Now we can see section 1 to section 8. Now it's purely on structural design. Loads, what are the forces, what are the effects. Section 2 is dealing with soils and foundations. This is some of the aspects of that also because very important from our point of view. Timbers and bamboos, timbers, masonry, section 4. ज़्यादा यूज नहीं होता अपने masonry फिर but still some provisions are there. Section 5 exclusively for concrete. Now here you can see section 5A is for plain and reinforced concrete. 5B is being used for pre-stressed concrete. Now can anybody tell, are we using any type of pre-stressed concrete in our building work? Maybe those who are dealing with station development work. Pre-stressed concrete work हम लोग यूज करते हैं क्या? Making of building. Railways में शायद कम होगा, but maybe in private sector people are using pre-stressed concrete. You must have heard about PT slab. Anybody is doing in railways? रेलवे में कहीं कर रहे हैं क्या? यूजिंग
सर
ऑफ
भुसावल डिवीजन में अभी एसएनटी के एबीएस हट के लिए बना रहे हैं सर।
भुसावल डिवीजन में एसएनटी के लिए
हाँ, एसएनटी के जो हट्स है ऑटोमेटिक
हाँ।
सिग्नलिंग के, उनके लिए अभी प्रीकास्ट के लिए हम लोगों ने शेड्यूल दे दिया उनको।
नहीं, प्रीकास्ट इज डिफरेंट, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट प्री स्ट्रेस।
सर अभी तो प्रीकास्ट ही है सर, उसमें प्री स्ट्रेस नहीं है।
हाँ, तो प्री स्ट्रेस की बात कर रहा हूँ। आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट प्री स्ट्रेस कंक्रीट।
Yes.
Okay, but these provisions are still there. You can use pre-stressed concrete in building works, and which is the IS code associated with that? In case you want to do any type of pre-stressing activities in buildings, then you have to refer to IS 1343 2012. यार आपके यहाँ यूज नहीं हो रहा होगा, but maybe in station development work जहाँ पे nowadays new structures may be coming up, they may be using some pre-stressed concrete elements or the structural elements. So there you might be required to see those. Section 6 is steel. Section 7 is prefabrication systems, buildings, or what you call as composite constructions. Nowadays people are using those. 7 is prefabricated concrete. And then we have systems, buildings and mixed composite construction 7B. And lastly, as you can see, section 8 regarding glass and glazing. You must have seen a lot of new buildings which are coming up entirely covered from glasses on all the four sides. So earlier again no provisions were there, but good elaborate guidelines again are provided in section 8. Now we come to volume 2. Now this we are talking about volume 1, NBC volume 2. What it covers? Part 7, constructional practices and safety. Very nicely and elaborate guidelines here. What are the good construction practices and what are the safety related things which we are required to be seen during construction. Part 8, very important from our point of view, because you may be required to have some requirement for our lighting and natural ventilation. Electrical and allied installations not directly connected to us, but yes, in some way, because we are affected with that. Air conditioning, heating and mechanical ventilation. This is again HVAC which are required to be dealt. Acoustic, sound insulation, noise control. Installation of lifts, yes, maybe from civil point of view, installation of lifts also is important because civil structures will be making escalators, moving blocks. Section 6, information communication enabled installations. Yes, 7. Part 9 is important from our point of view. Water supply, drainage and sanitation, solid waste management and gas supply. Nowadays you must have seen in societies also we are having some gas supply pipelines also. So again, the provisions has been included in this particular part 9. Landscaping as part 10. If somebody wants to go into details of that, he can take use of this also. Part 11 is approach to sustainability and part 12 is asset and facility management. So these are some of the things which I have just tried to tell what are the various chapters available in NBC, volume 1, volume 2. Now let's see some of the important provisions which I think should be known to us. Now what they are saying is that this is again clause 4.6. For a high-rise building, we have already seen anything which is more than 15 meters in height, and special building, they have again categorized certain special buildings. I will tell you after this slide. So what? The Fire and Life Safety Code or the Code of Requirement specifies what it says. The following additional provisions of means of access. Find well what it is saying. Provisions of means of access shall be ensured. Additional provisions हैं. The width of the main street on which the building abuts, that means the building के सामने वाला जो road है, shall not be less than 12 meters and one end of this particular street shall join another street which is not less than 12 meters in width. So again, as you can understand, this is related to fire and life safety. It says, in case the building is a high-rise building, then the main street which is in front of it should not be less than 12 meters in height. Sorry, in 12 meters in width. Or in case if it is not there, then the street at which it is connecting afterwards should not be less than 12 meters. And obviously, the route should not terminate in a dead end, except in case of residential buildings up to a height of 30 meters. 30 मीटर तक अगर हाइट है, अगर वो है तो it can go into what you call as a terminate as a dead end, otherwise not. Very important this provision, I am reading this. The approach to the building and open spaces on all its sides. Now just imagine, suppose there is one building. So we have to have open spaces on and around the building itself, not less than 6 meters in width, and a turning radius has to be minimum 9 meters. Why it is required? Because it should have a provision for a fire tender movement on and around the entire building area. So please ensure the 6 meters in case it's a high-rise building. So that, yes. Okay. So this I suppose is known to everybody. So 6 meters width I need to give as clear open space for the fire tender to move around the building. And mind well, the surface on which the fire tender is supposed to move, you must just try to relate it. Suppose you go into a big society, how much you must have, it's a high-rise building having more than maybe around 200 flats. So in that case, you must have seen there is again lot of open area in and around that particular building. And again, there is a hard concrete surface which is provided just like a road on and around the periphery of the building itself. And again, it specifies that for the fire tender movement, the weight can be up to 45 tons, and the hard surface, whatever you have provided, should be able to take the weight of 45 ton minimum. That means whatever the road you are designing in and around the building. Yes, somebody is asking, yes, I am reading NBC provision. These are all NBC provisions I am reading. Very important because maybe big structures nowadays coming up. Maybe you are making certain quarters also. So here we should have that hard surface should be able to take 45 ton load. So again, you will be required to do the design of that particular road also. Maybe in case it is required, you have to do RCC of an adequate thickness and adequate what you call as grade of concrete. So I suppose this is known to all. Very important requirement. चले आगे. Yes. Now we say that the main entrance to the plot. Now suppose there is a plot and there is some entrance I we need to give to this particular plot. Now the gate, whatever is provided or for that particular plot, should have adequate width to allow easy access of the fire engine, and in no case not less than 6 meters. So you cannot have a gate of 3 meters. Although you have provided the entire space of 6 meters in and around the building. If you are providing 3 meters, obviously the fire tender cannot enter. So I need to have adequate gate width of minimum 6 meters. And the second important thing again it says that in case you have provided any type of what you call as a name of that particular society or of that particular building, so the main entrance at the boundary wall which is built over, the minimum clearance shall be 4.5 meters. You can understand it should be 6 meters wide the gate, and in case you have provided any type of what you call as covering over that gate, it should not be less than 4.5 meters so that the fire tender can enter into the plot. Is it okay? Able to understand? चले आगे.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll move ahead. There are certain definitions which have been given. We have already seen some definitions for room height. Now what they say, because there may be certain provision which has been given that certain room height has to be minimum 3 meters or 2.75 meters. Now the definition should be, they have given that how do I define a room height? The vertical distance measured from the finished floor surface to the finished ceiling surface. जो भी आपका फ्लोर सरफेस है वहां से आपका सीलिंग सरफेस को जो भी हाइट रहेगा उसको हम रूम हाइट कहेंगे. Now they have given a certain clarification where the finished ceiling is not provided. Now it can be a normal beam. The underside of the joist or the beam or the tie beam shall determine the upper point of the measurement for determining the headroom. So suppose my room height is 3 meters, then from the floor level to the bottom of the beam has to be 3 meters. Okay, because these are some basic definitions which are given in NBC. Now there may be certain provisions. Many times it says that your building or some plinth height is supposed to be say around 45 centimeters above the road level, suppose. So what it says is that the street level or the grade, the officially established elevation or the grade of the center line of the street upon which the plot front, that means whatever the road is in front of you or that particular plot, and if there is no officially established grade, the existing grade of the street at its midpoint is required to be taken as a reference. तो अगर सामने का रोड है उसके ऊपर में कैम्बर है तो सेंटर लाइन के ऊपर में जो भी उसका एलिवेशन रहेगा दैट इज रिक्वायर्ड टू बी बेसिकली what we called as transferred to my reference location, and then from there you can take the reference. There are certain definitions for carpet area, plinth area. As you can see, carpet is the covered area of the usable room at any floor level excluding the area of the wall. Plinth area, the built up covered area measured at the floor level of the basement or of any story. So these are some basic definitions which many times we need clarification. Room height we have already covered. Certain water closets, again they have given us some definitions. Water flushed plumbing fixture designated, designed to receive human excrement directly from the user of the fixture. So how do I say it? Because these these definitions you won't find. The term is used sometime to designate the room or the compartment in which the fixture is placed. मैं किसको बाथरूम कहूंगा, किसको WC कहूंगा, this things normally. The floor level, the floor surface in a story on which one normally walks in a building. So I say it's the first floor, second floor, third floor, or a service floor, or any other floor. Surface water drains. Again, we are required to have any type of land passage or other area within the curtilage of the building shall be effectively drained by surface water drain. We have already seen earlier that any times we need to have that sewage plan or we have to have this open, what we call as open drain plan also, so that how the surface water will be getting drained, that is also required. And again it specifies the written approval of the authority shall be obtained for connecting any subsoil or the surface water drain to a sewer. Because there may be a case, possibly in a corporation, you may be having a sewer which is passing near your plot and you want to connect that your surface water drain to that. So please you have to take the written approval of the authority. So please don't make such type of storm water drain so that we have some type of a structure in between and it doesn't serve the purpose. I just taken the photograph from somewhere just to have more clarity on that. Yes, this is also just to make you what you call as more information is with respect to any structures which are in and around this what you call as transmission tower. So these are again electricity lines. This is part 3 again clause 6.4 of again NBC. An overhead line shall not cross an existing building as far as possible, and no building shall be constructed under an existing overhead line. And they have given certain things. Now here you can see this may be a private, again small plots which are just coming up in and around this particular electric tower. Now you can see the design itself, they are making use of this and possibly they are using just like a road. But again this is not, again even constructing these houses very near to this tower is not permitted. I will tell you what are those. Again depending on this, depending on DC voltages, vertical clearances they have given and horizontal clearances also are given. I can say what they are saying, the vertical clearances and horizontal clearances on the basis of maximum deflection due to wind pressure from the building shall be maintained as below. Although you may not, this may not be the case in railways, many जो आसपास तो शायद होंगे नहीं, बट अगर ऐसे कोई हैं जहां पे आप इंस्टॉलेशन बना रहे हैं, मे बी सम व्हाट यू कॉल्ड एज टीआरडी रिलेटेड इंस्टॉलेशंस हैं, अगर आप जहां बना रहे हैं मे बी नियर दिस पर्टिकुलर व्हाट यू कॉल्ड एज सबस्टेशन से आप बनाते होंगे, तो वहां पे आपको नीड टू कीप एडिक्वेट डिस्टेंसेस अपार्ट फ्रॉम दो horizontal clearance and vertical clearance. This is something again which I am trying to share with you, because suppose electrical department comes that I need to have a provision of a transformer in the building complex. then this is from our information point of view as to how much space, clear space I should keep from the wall in case they are keeping the transformer. So in case it is having the walls on two sides, then 0.75 meters should be the clearance between the wall and the transformer face. Likewise, suppose it is on three sides, then here it is not 0.75, it is 1 meter. See, why I am trying to basically share all this information is that because the electrical people may be saying that मेरे को transformer यहाँ बिठाना है, वहाँ लगाना है, building complex में डालना है. You may not be aware of what the provisions are there. फिर मैं कहाँ पे बनाऊँ, wall कहाँ पे बनाऊँ, कितनी दूर बनाऊँ. So again, I have just given a clarity because दो side wall है तो क्या करना है, three side wall है तो क्या करना है. In case चारों side मेरे को enclose करना है from security point of view with a door, then it has to be 1.25 meters. Or it may be having in the same complex as two transformers. Then for one transformer from the end is 1.25 meters. And this is between the two transformers is X. And again they have given certain clause you have to refer as to what distance I should keep between the two transformers. It may not be any time required immediately, but कभी-कभी हो सकता है these provisions may be helpful to you. Now here you can see at the panel room what they are saying that this suppose this panel has been installed. What they are saying is that clear height above this particular panel for a panel room 1200 millimeters is minimum requirement over this particular joist or the beam. Likewise, in case we have a DG room, again diesel generator room. So again it specifies what should be the height above this particular DG top, DG set, the top of DG set. Here it is again saying that maximum it can go up to 3 meters. Can we go ahead? Are you able to understand this? Not readily, maybe you may not be required to have this information readily, but in case it is required, things are available. Lot of provisions are there, but I have just chosen certain important. Now this is with respect to ceiling fans. Many times we are required to provide. Again the provisions we are not aware. Unless otherwise specified, the clearance between the bottommost point of the ceiling fan and the floor shall not be less than 2.4 meters. अगर आपका कोई सीलिंग फैन लगा हुआ है उसके नीचे से फ्लोर की हाइट कम से कम 2.4 मीटर रहना चाहिए. Secondly, the minimum clearance between the ceiling, whatever the ceiling, the bottom of the roof and the plane of the blade shall not be less than 300 millimeters. You can say 2.4 plus 0.3. So that will be around 2.7 is my height requirement in case I am having a fan in the room. So from floor level to bottom of that beam is supposed to be minimum 2.7 if we do the calculation based on this. Are you able to understand what these provisions are? Simple provisions, not very difficult to understand, but important one. From our point of view. Any reaction? Fine. Should we go ahead? Again, with respect to the ceiling fan, so in case a ceiling fan is provided, what should be the area normally it will cover? So what it says is that fans of 1200 millimeter or 1400 millimeter sweep, means whatever the fan, the blades are there, normally cover up the area of 9 square meter to 10 square meter. Therefore, in general, for office buildings, for every part of the bay to be served by the ceiling fans, it is necessary that the base shall be so designed that full number of the fans can be suitably located. Otherwise, it will create ill ventilated pockets. So that is why, because you are planning for certain fan hooks, maybe with respect to what you call the size of the room. So this is just to tell you that it will cover around 9 to 10 square meters, one fan will cover. So we need to plan how many fans are required to be provided maybe in a long haul. So again it specifies in case it's a long haul, then you have to provide these fans at 3 meter spacing in both directions. although not directly related to you, but this information will help you. Now we will see some of the photographs. Please pay attention. Many times this you will find at your site. आपने देखा है कभी ये चीजें? You must have seen here in the photographs what you are able to see. क्या दिख रहा है इसके अंदर में? कॉलम कट कर दिया है. यस, यू कैन टॉक ऑल्सो इन केस यू कैन जस्ट पुट ऑन योर माइक. ये जो आपको दिख रहा है, somebody has done, he has taken the cables or electrical requirement or whatever other cables are there through the column, and rather he has cut the column, he has reduced the section of the column, and he has taken his installation to the other side. Likewise on the beam side also you can see the entire depth of the beam is cut. My question is it permitted? Or what you will do?
No, sir, it's not permitted.
Not permitted, somebody will question, or then electrical will say that then what should I do?
Conduit should have run.
Conduits, yes. What you are saying is that you can have conduits. I will tell you another. Show you another photograph. Now, what you will say of this?
Sir, it is done after the casting. Before casting, conduit should have been provisioned. If space is not available.
Okay, so what you are saying is that before construction, I can provide conduits in the column or in the beam or whatever location is there. Maybe in slabs also.
This is crime.
Yes, now you can understand what he has done, because now you have made your civil structures and you have gone. Now the electrical person comes or the contractor comes and he does his work. Now you can understand here the more than 50% of the section of the column is gone, and that too at two locations. So you can understand the importance of all these activities. Many times we tend to ignore all these things. कभी लगता है चलो यार वो तो कर रहा है करने दो. But you can understand, suppose it's a high-rise building. Just imagine it's a high-rise building. 10 stories, 20 stories. Now the entire load of the building is coming onto this column. Now we are playing with what we call the safety of the column itself. Please be very careful. I am just sharing some of the photographs for us to understand in a better way. This normally you will find. Suppose you are in a parking lot. You have all these structures which are coming up in the form of the beam. Now there may be a rainwater pipe or any other sewage drainage pipe which is passing through what we call at the bottom of your parking lot, and you will see that these things are commonly available. Would you agree? Now you can see here almost the beam, almost 70-80% of the beam is gone. Likewise the other way. Then what is the remedy? Remedy क्या रहेगा? Yes. Please be interactive. It will be happy. It will be helping us to understand better.
ब्रैकेट लगा के हैंग किया जाए सर, उसमें
क्या करना पड़ेगा?
ब्रैकेट्स लगा के सर हैंग किया जाए पाइप को सर.
हाँ, यह तो आप जैसे बता रहे हैं. Yes, very true. You can have some hanger like this type of hanger, and these hangers can help you out, or rather you can put your हाँ वो हैंगर से आप हैंग कर दीजिए और उसके ऊपर में से आप पाइप या जो भी सिस्टम ले जाना चाहे ले जाइए. लेकिन डोंट कॉम्प्रोमाइज विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू द स्ट्रक्चरल इंटीग्रिटी ऑफ माई बीम्स और द कॉलम्स और एनी अदर स्ट्रक्चर. ठीक है. कुछ और फोटोग्राफ्स हैं? Now as you can see, suppose the plinth beam or any beam which has been provided. Now these people, those who are related to what we call as sewage related activities, they are making some plumbing connections, and they are again, as you can say, cutting the entire plinth beam itself for making some provisions for their own what you call as the location as well. Here you can see he has cut the entire beam, put the entire pipe through that, and just made some type of water onto the top of it. Just a minute. Hello? Anji? हाँ मैडम, मैं अभी थोड़ा सा मीटिंग में हूँ, मैं बाद में बात कर लूँ या आप करिए, आज 3 बजे बात कर लीजिए, है ना? हाँ 3 बजे. Okay, so we are talking about this. Here what they have done, again they have compromised on the structural integrity of the beams itself. Some more photographs. Now here the entire depth of the beam is gone, taken the entire pipe through that, and he is doing his job. Please pay attention. Many times we tend to ignore all these things.
सर
हाँ जी.
सर आजकल ये जो डक्ट्स छोड़ता है ना सर, पर्टिकुलर स्पेस है बिल्डिंग्स में, सेंट्रल में, नहीं तो कहीं डक्ट्स छोड़ता है, सारे सैनिटरी पाइपलाइंस वगैरह सब उसमें से पास करता है सर, वो बेटर ऑप्शन होगा.
हाँ, अगर आप बोल रहे हैं, yes, what you are saying is that I have made a provision in the what you call as the structural element itself that 4 inch wire diameter will be taken through in this particular case.
ये प्री
That is required to be pre-planned. What you are saying is that we have to understand this, that I will be taking that is
at the time of planning itself, it should be catered where the pipe should go, where the sanitary pipe should go, and all these things at the time of planning itself. That should be designed.
That's why I was just telling you that these things are required to be frozen in advance, so that what will happen. Now what is my remedy? So in case I want to have this facility, then my structural designer will cater to this requirement. Are you able to understand? The structural designer will make a provision of having a 4 inch dia hole in between my structural member. Then possibly, according to design, he will see removing that particular cross-sectional area from the beam, whether it will be safe or not, or he will increase the section of the beam, or he can provide you an alternative location from which you can take. Now just imagine, suppose you want to take, maybe it's a beam around 10 meters of the length of the beam. Which is the best location from which you would like to take this? Suppose this option is given to you. What will be the best location from where you would like to take it? From the depth of the beam point of view. क्योंकि कहां से लेके जाना चाहेंगे आप, अगर आपके पास ऑप्शन नहीं है? यस, तो बता सकते हैं? Maybe it is best possible
below the plinth beam, sir.
Near the
Below the plinth beam.
नहीं, प्लिंथ बीम छोड़ दीजिए, नॉर्मल बीम की बात करता हूँ. सपोज आपका एक नॉर्मल बीम है, तो कहां से आप ले जाना चाहेंगे? द फर्स्ट ऑप्शन इज बिलो द बीम. या तो आप मेसनरी से लेके चले जाइए, ठीक है ना. यू शुड नॉट कट योर बीम और द कॉलम. बेटर यू कैन टेक फ्रॉम मेसनरी. ये लेके जाना भी तो मैं मेसनरी से लेके जाऊंगा, नीचे से लेके जाऊं. और नहीं तो अगर मेरे पास ऑप्शन कम है, देन आई वुड लाइक टू गो थ्रू द पॉइंट वेयर माई न्यूट्रल एक्सिस इज देयर, जहां पे मेरा स्ट्रेस कंसंट्रेशन नहीं है. बीम के केस में क्या रहेगा, नीचे में मेरा टेंशन रहेगा, ऊपर कंप्रेशन रहेगा, तो हो सकता है मैं न्यूट्रल एक्सिस पे छोटा एरिया ले जाने के लिए परमिट कर सकता हूं. बट अगेन द डिजाइनर विल टेल कहां से लेके जाएंगे, एंड इन केस यू वांट टू स्पैन वाइज कहां से ले जाना उचित रहेगा. नाउ दिस वाज विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द डेप्थ रिक्वायरमेंट. नाउ व्हाट हैपेंस विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द स्पैन रिक्वायरमेंट. तो वहां पे भी अगेन आपको देखना पड़ेगा जहां पे पॉइंट ऑफ इंफ्लेक्शन है, इंफ्लेक्शन मीन बेसिकली आपका ये चेंज हो रहा है, योर व्हाट यू कॉल्ड एज बेंडिंग मोमेंट इज चेंजिंग, शायद वो लोकेशन पे दे पाऊं. एंड अगेन विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू द डिजाइन रिक्वायरमेंट. तो जब भी आप इस टाइप की चीजें करेंगे, प्लीज प्लान योर एक्टिविटीज बिफोर हैंड इटसेल्फ, so that these things are what you called as taken care of in the initial design itself from the structural designer point of view. Because the plumbing person or the electrical person, he is supposed to do all these things. So in case you don't give any option to him, then he will do all these activities. And I tell you, these provisions are not available in IS code. I will just tell you what the provisions are there. Just मैं आपको पढ़ के दिखा रहा हूँ, NBC में थोड़ा बहुत लिखा हुआ है. This is again with respect to the what you call as how the what you call as building services you are required to take care of. Electrical installations in a new building shall normally begin immediately on the commencement of the main structural building work, and before finishing work such as plastering has begun, except in case of surface wiring which can be carried out after the plaster work is carried out. So I am reading NBC provision part 8. Section 2, page 47, building services. Usually, no installation work should start until the building is reasonably weatherproof. But where electrical wiring is to be concealed within the structure, as may be the case with a reinforced concrete building, the necessary conduit and the ducts shall be positioned firmly by tying the conduit to the reinforcement before the concreting. But again, he is silent on with respect to the structural integrity. He is trying to tell as to how it is to be done. वो बोलता है करना भी है तो आपको मेन स्ट्रक्चरल बिल्डिंग के पहले ही आपको ये सब चीजें काम करने हैं. और न्यू बिल्डिंग इज ट्राइंग टू से. Care should be taken to avoid use of damaged conduits or the ducts. The conduit shall, and again the end of that conduit shall be given suitable anti-corrosive treatment and holes blocked off by putties or caps to protect conduits from getting blocked. Now many times what happens during execution, the coupling is taken basically what you call as worn out while doing, because labor काम करती है, lot of activities are there. वो निकलने के बाद वो conduit के अंदर में हो सकता है your concrete might go. So all conduit openings and junction box openings etc. shall be properly protected against entry of mortar or concrete during construction. Clause 13.9.1 again page 123 specifies specifically that aluminum and aluminum alloy conduits and accessories should not be used where frictional contact with oxygen rich items such as rusty steel might occur and cause sparking. तो आपको एल्यूमिनियम रिलेटेड कंड्यूट्स को अवॉइड करना चाहिए. तो इलेक्ट्रिकल वाले कौन से वाले कंड्यूट डालते हैं आजकल?
पीवीसी डालते हैं.
पीवीसी वाले डालते हैं. इलेक्ट्रिकल वाले भी आजकल नॉट यूजिंग एल्यूमिनियम, तो पीवीसी वाले भी डालते हैं. लेकिन मैं आगे में और एक क्लॉज बताऊंगा जिसके अंदर में आपको ये ध्यान रखना है. ACI 318 अमेरिकन कंक्रीट इंस्टीट्यूट 318 कहता है they give the detailing about such conduits passing through concrete member. इतना एरिया आपका कवर होना चाहिए एक पर्टिकुलर कंक्रीट मेंबर के अंदर में, उससे ज्यादा आप एरिया निकालेंगे नहीं. स्ट्रक्चरल इंटीग्रिटी आप स्ट्रक्चरल डिजाइनर से चेक करते रहेंगे, किस टाइप का मेंबर यूज करेंगे. अगर आपको हॉट वेदर पाइपलाइन डालना है उसके अंदर में से जो आपका कंड्यूट के अंदर में से जाएगा, तो वो टेम्परेचर ऑफ वाटर आपका क्या होना चाहिए, बिकॉज मे बी योर वाटर सप्लाई आर देयर. पानी की सप्लाई पाइपलाइन हो सकती है जो गर्म पानी सप्लाई कर रही है, वो आपका कंड्यूट के फॉर्म के अंदर में इट इज हिडन इनसाइड. So all these things will be taken care by ACI guidelines. No elaborate guidelines are given in either NBC or even IF code. ठीक है, तो 318 ACI gives. लेकिन आज का खैर वो 318 का बहुत डिटेल में मैं आप ले नहीं पाऊंगा अगर NBC का प्रोविजन को कवर करना. बट जस्ट फॉर योर इन्फॉर्मेशन यू कैन जस्ट गो थ्रू दैट, यू कैन फाइंड इन योर नेट थ्रू ACI 318. ACI is again American Concrete Institute guideline. Okay, then we move to something called as unsafe building. How do I say that building is unsafe? How do I define it? Now here what specifies is that buildings which are structurally and constructionally unsafe. Buildings which are structurally and constructionally unsafe. That means either the structural component wise it is weak, or during construction I have made some unsafe practice, or insanitary, or not provided with adequate means of egress. That means I don't have a facility of having proper egress from that particular building. I cannot have some what you call as staircases or any other things by which I can get outside the building, or which constitute a fire hazard. Yes? Yes, कोई कुछ बोलना चाह रहे हैं? Or constitute a fire hazard or are otherwise dangerous to human life, or which in relation to existing is of constitute a hazard to safety. ऐसे चीजों को I will be against terming it as an unsafe building or abandoned. In railways we are doing it. कोई अगर स्ट्रक्चरली अनसेफ बिल्डिंग हो जाता है तो हम उसको अनसेफ डिक्लेयर कर लेते हैं. But here the proper definition is given. In general we are talking, but here it is specific. Demolition of buildings, many times we don't pay attention to this important aspect. Please pay attention. Before building is demolished, the owner shall notify all utilities having service connections within the building such as water, electric, gas, sewer and other connections. Many times we tend to ignore or we tend to forget about this important aspect, but please pay attention that these authorities or the what we call the utilities, those who are in charge of these utilities should be informed in case you are going for demolition of a building. The permit to demolish a building shall not be issued unless the release is obtained from the utility stating that their respective services, connection, etc. has been removed or sealed. So this is again a small
question.
हाँ जी हाँ जी
सर
बोलिए.
अरे फिजिकली बिल्डिंग को देख के कैसे अनसेफ डिक्लेयर कर सकते हैं? क्या उसका कोई क्राइटेरिया है या सेफ्टी ऑडिट वगैरह कराया जाए? क्या
देखो, अगर आपको लगता है बड़ी बिल्डिंग है जिसके अंदर में यू आर नॉट एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज रिक्वायर्ड टू बी डन, तो उसका ऑडिट करा लीजिए. इंपॉर्टेंट बिल्डिंग स्ट्रक्चरल ऑडिट करा लीजिए विद अ प्रॉपर पर्सन, सो ही इज इन अ बेटर पोजीशन टू टेल यू. अगर आप तो फिजिकली देख लेंगे.
जी जी.
बट कभी कभी ऐसी चीज रहती है कि वो क्या करता है, फिर कुछ एनडीटी टेस्टिंग करेगा. ही विल ट्राई टू फाइंड आउट व्हाट इज द स्ट्रेंथ ऑफ द कंक्रीट एट प्रेजेंट. आपके पास जो ड्राइंग्स है उसके हिसाब से, प्रेजेंट स्ट्रेंथ के हिसाब से हो सकता है वो डिजाइन अभी आज के डेट में ठीक है नहीं है. एडिशन ऑफ स्ट्रक्चर हो चुके हैं उसके ऊपर में, जो पहले ड्राइंग थी उसके ऊपर में. ऑल दीज फैक्टर्स ही विल टेक केयर ऑफ एंड पॉसिबली ही इज अ बेटर पर्सन टू टेल यू.
सर अगर बिल्डिंग की लाइफ, सर अगर बिल्डिंग कोडल लाइफ पूरा हो गया बट बिल्डिंग ठीक ठाक है तो फिर बिल्डिंग कंटिन्यू रहेगी.
अब देखो कोडल लाइफ तो कैसा रहता है कि अब अकाउंट डिपार्टमेंट के अंदर में कोडल लाइफ 50 ईयर्स सपोज दे दिया है. अगर आपको
70 ईयर्स है रेलवे बोर्ड ने. साल अप्रॉक्स.
हाँ तो 70 पकड़े. लेकिन अगर आपका स्ट्रक्चर ठीक ठाक है, देखो नॉर्मली व्हाट हैपेंस, पुराने जो स्ट्रक्चर थे ब्रिटिश के टाइम के स्ट्रक्चर थे, दे वर ऑल स्टोन मैसनरी. उसके अंदर में ज्यादा कोई मेजर इश्यूज अभी तक जो मुझे समझ में आया उसके अंदर बहुत मेजर इश्यूज नहीं आए.
जी जी.
जो हमारे बिल्डिंग बने हैं उसी में ज्यादा इश्यू आते हैं. या तो लीकेज ज्यादा हो गया है, सालों से लीकेज हो रहा है, अंदर के रेनफोर्समेंट कितना करोड़ हो गया
एक्सपोजर हो गया रेनफोर्समेंट.
हाँ, आपको नहीं पता है कि अंदर का रेनफोर्समेंट कितना करोड़ हो गया, बिकॉज देयर में बी लीकेज फॉर अराउंड 10 ईयर्स.
यस.
तो फिर ऐसे सिचुएशन के अंदर में इट इज हिडन आइटम, यू मे नॉट बी एबल टू सी. एज आई हैव ऑलरेडी टोल्ड मेनी टाइम्स, दिस फॉल सीलिंग्स आर देयर, वो आप देख नहीं सकते, इंस्पेक्शन होता नहीं आपको. तो मेरे हिसाब से प्रॉपर एक अच्छा, अगर आपको लगता है कोई इंपॉर्टेंट बिल्डिंग है, कोडल लाइफ के आसपास खत्म हो गई है एंड यू एंटिसिपेट की कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो सकता है, तो कराना ज्यादा अच्छा है.
ज्यादा राइट सर. ठीक है.
रेसिडेंशियल बिल्डिंग्स के बारे में जो जानकारी देते हैं, एक्सटीरियर ओपन सरफेस, जो ओपन स्पेसेस की बात कर रहे थे, ये कुछ रेसिडेंशियल बिल्डिंग्स के लिए अप टू 10 मीटर हाइट के अंदर में कुछ टेबल दिया हुआ है. नॉट जिसमें भी फॉर अ नॉर्मल केसेस फ्रंट ओपन स्पेस कितना छोड़ना चाहिए, बगल में जैसे टेबल दिया हुआ है 7.5 मीटर हाइट तक है तो कितना छोड़ना चाहिए. विड्थ ऑफ द स्ट्रीट सामने में किस तरीके से है, 7.5 मीटर की है, 7.5 to 18 मीटर, मैक्सिमम हाइट ऑफ अबाउट 7 मीटर. इस टाइप के कुछ फ्रंट ओपन स्पेसेस हैं, साइड और रियर ओपन स्पेसेस हैं डिफरेंट हाइट्स के लिए. जैसे आपने बताया कि सपोज 120 मीटर की हाइट है, या above 120 meters height है, तो I need to keep side and rear open spaces in and around the building around 20 meters. जैसे हमने लास्ट टाइम देखा था कि this space is required from considerations of moving of fire tenders या फायर ब्रिगेड की गाड़ी चारों तरफ तुम्हारे बिल्डिंग के घूम सके, तो कम से कम आपको उतनी जगह देंगे. ठीक है ना. Now there are some other occupancies also, maybe some educational buildings आपकी बनी हुई है, कोई institutional building भी हो सकती है. Except for nursery school, जैसे educational building बोलते हैं, तो open space around the building shall not be less than 6 meters. 6 मीटर के नीचे कोई भी open space सामने में एजुकेशनल बिल्डिंग का नहीं रहेगा. कोई स्कूल भी हो सकता है, इंस्टीट्यूशनल बिल्डिंग भी हो सकते हैं. अगेन यहाँ पे भी इट इज नॉट लेस देन 6 मीटर. असेंबली बिल्डिंग, अगेन असेंबली बिल्डिंग क्या हो सकते हैं, कोई हॉल्स रह सकते हैं, कम्युनिटी हॉल्स हो सकते हैं, या कोई ऑडिटोरियम हो सकता है. तो ओपन स्पेसेस एट फ्रंट शैल नॉट बी लेस देन 12 meters and other open spaces around the building not less than 6 meters. So again all these are considering all this fire and life safety requirements. Okay, now we come to some provisions with respect to soil exploration, because ये भी एक पार्ट रहता है. Now you have planned a certain particular building, now I have to execute the work. कितने लोकेशंस पे मेरे को सॉइल एक्सप्लोरेशन के लिए सैंपल्स लेना चाहिए. क्या देखो, ब्रिज और बाकी चीजों के लिए इलैबोरेट गाइडलाइंस आर देयर, बिल्डिंग्स के लिए आपको कहीं डायरेक्टली नहीं मिलेगा. तो ये गाइडलाइंस क्या कहता है, विल जस्ट ट्राई टू सी व्हाट दिस पर्टिकुलर क्लॉज इज सेइंग. फॉर अ कॉम्पैक्ट बिल्डिंग साइट कवरिंग एन एरिया ऑफ अबाउट 0.4 हेक्टेयर. 0.4 हेक्टेयर बोले तो कितना स्क्वायर मीटर हो गया, क्यों भाई कितना हो गया 0.4 हेक्टेयर. हाँ 4,000 स्क्वायर मीटर. So suppose it is 4,000 square meters. So what we are supposed to do, we have to take one borehole or the trial pit in each corner and one in the center, which is required to be taken. जो आपको ट्रायल पिट लेना है, कहाँ लेना चाहिए. तो इट इज सपोज द बिग बिल्डिंग मोर देन 0.4 हेक्टेयर में 4,000 स्क्वायर मीटर से ऊपर है, तो मेरे को आई हैव टू टेक 5 लोकेशन बोरहोल. Or suppose it is a small building, then even one borehole or the trial pit in the center will suffice. छोटा बिल्डिंग है तो मेरे को एक सेंटर ऑफ द बिल्डिंग के अंदर में अगर मैं ट्रायल पिट ले लेता हूं या बोरहोल ले लेता हूं, इट्स ओके. I am sharing all these things because these are important requirements. Possibly it is not covered in work plan. चले आगे, इसको समझ में आ गया आप लोगों को. ओके ओके. while doing soil exploration, the most commonly used exploration procedure क्या क्या है, is boring. We are doing some type of boring activities in which different field testing procedures are there, like standard penetration test, field vein shear test, undisturbed sample, disturbed samples, location of groundwater tables, field classifications. All these things are required to be done. And many times we are doing something called as open trial pit. Trial pit भी करते हैं अपन. तो ट्रायल पिट अपन कितना करते हैं नॉर्मली, छोटा सा एक गड्ढा खोद लेते हैं and we say yes, this particular strata is there. Now what it says, the method consists of excavating the trial pit and thereby exposing the subsoil surface thoroughly, enabling undisturbed samples to be taken from the side and bottom of the trial pit. तो ट्रायल पिट ऐसे नहीं कि मैं छोटा सा गड्ढा कर दिया, बट अगेन इट शुड बी ऑफ एडिक्वेट साइज सो दैट यू आर एबल टू टेक अनडिस्टर्ब्ड सैंपल्स फ्रॉम देम. अगेन एन अपडेट, IS 1892 2021 2016 के NBC गाइडलाइंस के बाद वाले हैं. इज एन अपडेट टू दैट. जनरली ट्रायल पिट्स आर एक्सकवेटेड अप टू 4 मीटर डेप्थ बिलो द ग्राउंड लेवल. 4 मीटर डेप्थ तक नीचे जाएगा. Minimum dimension of the pit shall be such that there is an adequate working space for excavation and carrying out sampling and testing, etc. Generally, the pit have a planned dimension varying from 1 meter by 1 meters to 3 meters by 3 meters depending on the depth required. This is an update I am just trying to give you. 2021 के अंदर में IS 1892 थोड़ा बहुत रिवाइज हो गया है. 2016 के बाद में कुछ प्रोविजन और चेंज हो गए हैं, तो आई एम गिविंग एन अपडेट ऑफ दैट.
सर अगर छोटा सा बिल्डिंग होने से भी वही 4 मीटर डेप्थ तक जाना पड़ेगा?
अगर आपको लगता है कि 4 मीटर के डेप्थ के पहले हार्ड स्टार्टर लग जाता है, तो फिर आप यू कैन जस्ट गिव इट रन. ट्रायल पिट में तो खैर चल सकता है, दैट यू कैन गिव सैम्पलिंग मेरे को. दिस अगेन अपडेट बिकॉज कितने डेप्थ तक आपको बोर होल करना चाहिए. जैसे मैंने अभी आपको बताया, लोकेशन ऑफ बोर होल जस्ट लाइटली लोडेड रेसिडेंशियल बिल्डिंग, सिंगल स्टोरी, डबल स्टोरी बिल्डिंग, so at least one borehole trial pit in the center of the building we have already seen, जो एनबीसी भी बोलता है. और buildings in a site covering an area of about 0.4 hectares जो भी बात कर रहे थे, at least one borehole on each corner and one in the center. This we have already seen. Now there have been some additional what they have given for structures or building having any of the planned dimension exceeding 50 meters. Now these are very important things I am trying to tell you. You may be planning some nowadays station development projects, huge buildings which are coming up. बड़े बड़े आपके बिल्डिंग्स अगर आ रहे होंगे तो ये प्रोविजन बड़े इंपॉर्टेंट है. बिकॉज मेनी टाइम्स द कंसल्टेंट मे नॉट बी अवेयर ऑफ द चेंजेस व्हिच हैव बीन मेड इन द IS कोड इन द रिसेंट पास्ट. फॉर स्ट्रक्चर्स एंड बिल्डिंग हैविंग एनी ऑफ द प्लान डायमेंशन एक्सीडिंग 50 meters, so it's a long building. For again multiple buildings in a site covering an area of about more than 0.4 hectares. That means there are multiple buildings. There are 2 or 3 buildings coming up in the same area. Or a multi-storied building of the structure height less than or equal to 50 meters. So in all these provisions they are saying the boreholes in a grid pattern with a point at not more than 50 meters distance, subject to minimum of 2 boreholes, and boreholes should cover the built up areas. हो सकता है in one go you will not be able to understand this, but depending on your requirement, I am giving or supplementing certain information which will be very important while doing this preliminary important borehole investigation, or what you call as subsoil investigation. The more detailed subsoil investigation you will do, the more data you will get, and possibly your design will be more good. There have been a number of cases where appropriate borehole detailing has not been done. Foundations has been erected based on whatever the data they have had, and they are facing problems once the building has come up. The building is sinking even after 2 years in certain cases. Please mind well, subsoil investigations are required to be done very carefully, or rather more attention is required to the person, the contractor who is doing all these activities. Please see whether he is taking the borehole samples properly or not, because based on those samples, laboratory tests will be done and certain inferences will be drawn. For multi-story buildings and structures of height more than 50 meters, it's a huge, what you call as a high-rise building, more than 50 meters height, minimum 3 boreholes at each building or the structure. हर बिल्डिंग के ऊपर में 3 बोरहोल लेना पड़ेगा. Now they have another what you called as type of structures of the buildings, linear structures, say roads or railways or embankment or the pipelines, maybe boundary walls, tunnels, retaining walls, transmission lines, etc. So they have given certain other requirements. Boreholes at spacing of 50 meters to 500 meters. High erratic substrata spacing may be suitably reduced, in uniform substrata may be suitably increased. So what I thought, this is an important table. Just for your reference, because depending on your requirement, you can just choose which I have to take, the provision I have to take. चले आगे. Okay, this we have already seen. Now there are certain things again, minimum depth. Now this was with respect to how many numbers you have to do. Now what should be the depth up to which I should go? Now, if you go by the definition, minimum depth to which the increase in stress level due to the foundation load is less than 10% of the in situ stress level. Now, this is, as you can say, it's a what you call as a theoretical definition. So, I'll just say for shallow foundation what they are saying, sharp foundation what they are saying, pile foundation in soil, what they are saying, well foundation in soil, penetration into the rock, embankment details, lot of things they have given. I'll see one of the cases, shallow foundations, normally other than rock, the depth of investigation shall be up to 2 to 3 times the estimated width of the largest foundation below the expected founding level. Now suppose your founding level is 3 meters. So what they are saying is that 3 times of the estimated width, the foundation is suppose 3 meters. So 3 into 3 becomes 9. So whatever my founding level is there, I have to go that much below. This is I am taking something extra. NBC के अलावा I am telling this information. So in case if it is depending on your requirement, whatever useful information I am just sharing, so it will be very useful for you. Because this is an update of 2021, 1892, IS 1892. Likewise, for rock foundation they have given. Likewise, for pile foundation in soils also they are given. This is very important because you may be founding on the pile foundation, but the depth of investigation, what they are saying, the depth of investigation shall be sufficiently below the expected founding level of the pile. But this should not be less than 5 meters or 5 times the diameter of the piles, whichever is more beyond the estimated pile termination level. See, normally what we do is that suppose the pile depth is 20 meters, we do investigation only up to 20 meters or so. But not, what he is saying now is different. Why they want to go further below? Because you never know what are the strata below the founding on which you are trying to form the structure. So that will also help you in understanding what is the strata below that. So you can take a proper decision for founding of the foundation. चले आगे? Can you move ahead?
No, sir, continue, please.
Okay, good. Depth of foundation, yes, this is also one of the things which NBC specifies. What should be the depth of foundation? Now suppose, as you can say, firstly is saying securing of adequate allowable capacity. जहां पे भी आपका allowable capacity मिलेगा वहां तक आप लेके जाएंगे depth of foundation. Suppose you want to go up to top rock, you have to go up to that particular depth. In case of a clayey soil, penetration below the zone where shrinkage and swelling due to seasonal weather changes are there, I need to go below that due to the trees or shrubs which are likely to cause appreciable movement. You may be having trees, having roots. Then if the roots are at 3 meters, then possibly you will be required to go further below. In fine sands and the silt, penetration below the zone on which the trouble may be expected from the frost. Now in India normally this is not there for the frost. Or the maximum depth of the scour, wherever relevant, should be considered. Now suppose you are having a building, you have any type of a stream or a nala just near to it, then it should go below the depth of the scour of that particular water stream. Okay? Now I will ask you a simple question. Suppose I am having a hard rock onto the top surface of the ground. So where should I have the foundation? अगर कोई डायरेक्टली सरफेस पे रॉक है तो बिल्डिंग का फाउंडेशन मैं कहां पे रखूंगा? Can I found it on the top? Yes?
No, sir.
आप नहीं कर सकते उसको फिर क्या करेंगे? फिर क्या करना है? फिर
सॉकेटिंग करेंगे सर 0.3 mm 300 mm की
300 mm के लिए आप डेप्थ में जाएंगे?
हाँ सर, हार्ड रॉक अगर आएगा फुटिंग है तो
ओके, तो आपका हिसाब से 300 mm जाना चाहिए. व्हाट अदर पीपल विल से? एनीबॉडी वुड लाइक टू गिव एन इनपुट? व्हाई 300? बिकॉज द एडिक्वेट अलाउबल कैपेसिटी इज देयर. तो 300 क्यों जाना है?
To support a horizontal thrust, air winds, etc.
मेरे ख्याल से सर कुछ to have sufficient anchorage, we should have some jacketing, the drilling holes and grouting with the reinforcement, and we can lay the foundation mat, sir.
Yes, no, now you must appreciate that this particular building may be subjected to wind loads, may be subjected to seismic loads. So obviously it should have some type of an anchorage. So what our code specifies, this is what they say. All foundations shall extend to a depth of at least 500 millimeters below natural ground level.
Irrespective of the strata.
Irrespective of the strata. He's not taking about strata. So 500 is minimum what they are talking. So in case somebody was saying 300, please correct yourself. It is 500 millimeters. ठीक है?
जी
चले
सर
आगे, चले आगे, ठीक है? अब dimension of footing क्या होना चाहिए? Again, this is something I will not go into much details of that because we have lot other things to basically cover. You can just go through that because some dimension they have given what should be the width of the footing which should be there depending on the stress requirement and what should be the what we call as extra width which is supposed to be there. ये again ये important from your point of view because what should be the spread of the what you call the load below your foundation. But what happens is that suppose you are having a black cotton soil or the soil is not suitable from foundation point of view and a harsh strata is maybe around 20 meters below. So how do you basically make your foundation of that particular building? Central level people will be able to tell you or tell that because they have a lot of what you call as BC soil, black cotton soil. How do you make the foundation for those soil? कैसे करते हैं? आपने कहीं सुना भी होगा, कहीं देखा भी होगा what we are doing. कहीं मुरम डाल देते हैं, we do the ramming of that muram, we do some rubble soiling also, so that we increase the bearing capacity of that particular strata. करते कि नहीं करते?
Yes, sir.
We are trying to increase the bearing capacity of that particular soil by putting either muram or some type of a boulder soil. Now what I am trying to tell is here is that in case it is an unreinforced foundation, the angular spread of the load from the base of the column or the wall or the bed plate to the outer edge of the ground bearing is not more than 1 vertical to 0.5 horizontal for masonries and 1 vertical to 1 horizontal for cement concrete. Now this is I am trying to tell you how the loading pattern will go below. Okay. The minimum thickness of the foundation of the edge again should not be less than 150 millimeters. Foundation का जो edge है, footing का जो edge रहेगा, वो 150 millimeters minimum होना चाहिए. In case the depth to the transfer of the load to the ground bearing is less than the permissible angle of the spread, the foundation should be reinforced. So where I should go for a reinforced foundation, where I can go for an unreinforced foundation, here the things are clear. Now, if the allowable, we were talking about if the allowed bearing capacity is available only at a very, very great depth, then how do I rest the foundation? And that too at a higher elevation. What they say is that I can go for an incompressible fill material, for example, a sand or a gravel, in which case the width of the fill should be more than the width of the foundation by an extent of dispersion of the load from the base of the foundation on either side at the rate of 2 vertical to 1 horizontal. Now what he is trying to tell is that, again I don't have that particular blackboard to explain you, see what he is saying. So what you are supposed to do is that, suppose it is at a greater depth, then what he is trying to say is that whatever the width of the fill is there, it should be more than the width of the foundation. Suppose the width of foundation is 2 meters. So what they will do, the width of foundation 2 meters with a dispersion of rate of 2 vertical to 1 horizontal. And that, whatever, suppose it comes to 4 meters at that particular depth. So I need to do that entire width of 4 meters with this new incompressible fill material or whatever the muram you are putting. Normally what we do is that only the width of the foundation we are putting that incompressible material or the muram or the sand or the gravel. So somewhat more clarity as to how it has to be done. Clear? आगे चले.
सर वो एंगल है ना सर, वो दिया था ना मैसनरी को 1:0.5 और कंक्रीट को 1:1 दिया था ना सर.
तो जो ऊपर वाला जो था दैट इज फॉर अ अनरेनफोर्स्ड फाउंडेशन. तो उसमें रेनफोर्समेंट आपने नहीं दिया है एंड योर स्ट्रेटा इज अवेलेबल नॉट एट अ ग्रेटर डेप्थ.
सर सर तो जो स्प्रेड है ना सर, वो लोड डिस्पर्सन का ना सर, वो
हाँ लोड डिस्पर्सन दैट इज गुड.
दैट इज द फेस ऑफ द कॉलम से 1:1 मतलब फेस ऑफ द कॉलम से जो डेप्थ ऑफ द फाउंडेशन कितना है उतना ही होगा फिर हॉरिजॉन्टली.
हाँ नहीं, फाउंडेशन के नीचे हाउ इट इज स्प्रेडिंग.
अच्छा बिलो फाउंडेशन.
Below because what happens is that you can have different type of strata at that, na. So in case you want to find the settlement of that particular strata, then how the designer will do it? So that he is trying to tell.
तो 1:1 में सर वो कितना और नीचे जाएगा, मतलब इसका हॉरिजॉन्टली जाएगा, वही डेप्थ ऑफ द फाउंडेशन जितना ही होगा उतना ही जाएगा ना सर.
नहीं, डेप्थ ऑफ फाउंडेशन के नीचे में it will go. Suppose you have 2 meter depth of foundation, but you have a what you call a soft strata or a layer which is having a soft soil which may be at 4 meters down.
Yes sir, yes sir.
So how the load dispersion will go, for how much load, that calculation he will be doing for the settlement of that particular soft strata. So that
Yes,
load
sir.
he is trying to tell you how it will be there for that case.
Yes sir, yes sir.
So again with respect to certain thickness of footing, if the thickness of the footing is not designed, then again they are saying shall be proportion with the following combination: dead load plus imposed load, or dead load plus imposed load plus the wind load or seismic load, which is critical. This is again with respect to certain design requirement for thickness of footing. The depth of exploration again we have already seen earlier, that was with respect to the IS code provision, this was with respect to NBC provision. So NBC again is 2016, but again you can refer to that. What I have one is IS 1892/2021. Alteration we have already seen. Please where during the construction. Now what happens is that suppose the design is coming to you based on the soil exploration activities, and you have designed the structure. Now what it says, when during construction the soil or the rock to which the foundation is to transfer load is found not to be the type or in the condition assumed, then the foundation shall be redesigned. Are you able to understand? Now there may be case many times. I will tell you my example. We were doing for a building activity, maybe around the foundation was around at 4 meters or 3 meters. Now the designer has assumed that particular strata as muram or suppose soft rock or whatever the rock is there, whatever the strata is there, with no groundwater near it. Now when I was executing that particular work, we found that there is groundwater at that particular depth of 3 meters. Just imagine what I am saying. The designer has considered it as in a dry state, but while executing, I found that there is water at that particular depth. So should I change the design of the foundation or not? My question. See, this is normally you will be encountering all SSC works or even agents also those are done. What you will do, suppose you encounter this particular problem.
एक्चुअली बेयरिंग कैपेसिटी सैचुरेटेड कंडीशन में कम होता है ना सर, इसको तो फिर दोबारा करना चाहिए.
Yes. So you must be aware that whenever you have learned about your academics also, when water is in that particular range, there is something called as saturation of that water, or it will be in a submerged condition. So in submerged condition, there is something uplift force and your net weight will be reduced. So in that case, your, as you must have seen, normally it reduces by 50%. So you have to redesign that. Possibly your plan area of my footing may be 2 meters by 2 meters. Then if the bearing capacity is reduced by 50%, then possibly the new dimension may be 4 meters by 4 meters or 3 meters by 3 meters. So please get it redesigned. In case, this clause is very important, in case during construction the soil or the rock to which the foundation is designed and is not found to be in the condition assumed, foundation should be redesigned. Okay? So again, this is again suitably altered. So I need to have something called as bearing pressure should be suitably altered. Clear about it? This is with respect to certain thickness of footings depending on the type of masonry, plain concrete, reinforced concrete, etc. This again you can take as a reference. Important requirement, suppose you are doing a rough foundations, minimum depth of foundation not less than 1 meter. For a normal foundation it was specified as 500 millimeters or 0.5 meters. For rough foundation, NBC specifies not less than 1 meter should be the minimum depth of foundation. Clear? Now there may be issues where you may be having a certain type of a sloping ground. Again, NBC also is there, but I have just taken an update of that, 1904-2021. Now suppose it's a sloping ground, then what should be the distance from this to the edge of my foundation of the building? So here they specify 900 millimeters minimum. And this angle of, this is again here specifying, whatever the sloping angle is, around 30 degrees. These surfaces again should not interact. ये जो आपका surface है, ये जो surface 30 degree का गया हुआ है, from horizontal, should not intersect. That means they should go parallel. There may be some problems for a sloping ground having granular soil. Now for a granular soil, again it specifies, this is 2021 again, it specifies that whatever the angle from this bottom of this footing to the bottom of this another footing which is adjacent to that, in granular soil, so it specifies the slope of this joining line should not be steeper than 1 vertical to 2 horizontal. Not steeper than. So it can be flatter. Rather it can be on the upper elevation, it cannot go below. Understand? This is with respect to the granular soil. Likewise, it can be for a clay soil. Now the same strata, but it's a clay soil. Now here, the angle from the bottom of this footing is up to the top of the another footing. And again, the criteria remains same, the slope of joining line not